I may now be a Lexus owner, and I'm starting to learn how to dress the part. We've even got a man bun going on. But before the Lexus came the Bluebird, and while I was driving to collect said beautiful Lexus, I did have some final thoughts on Project Bluebird. So here they are for your enjoyment. Well, this is pretty immense. It's officially the end of Project Bluebird. I am having my final drive in this car. It's quite a long final drive though, because I'm heading towards Birmingham and then to Coventry tomorrow, where the handover will take place, and I will replace my Nissan Bluebird with something else. So it's an opportunity to reflect on Project Bluebird as we drive up this particularly steep hill. And my first ever hate gasket change, and a car which came to me in pretty poor condition, and I think he's leaving it in a far better state. Perhaps I hadn't completed the picture with Project Bluebird. There's still the clutch to do, and the cooling system still isn't quite there yet, but I did fit a new fuel filter this morning. That finally arrived and got fitted just in time for departure. So it's been an interesting time. Perhaps my ultimate conclusion is that I like the Nissan Bluebird no more than I did last time. You may have already seen my early T12 hatchback video, which is the first Bluebird I owned, and it was a car that didn't exactly blow me away, and surprise surprise, a Bluebird with an even smaller engine has done an even worse job of winning me over. I mean, they're not bad cars, but it just hasn't got that something I want in a car, and it's very hard to define that something, because the Honda SMX is a car which I didn't think met any of my requirements in the car. It doesn't handle very well at all, and I thought I liked handling. I thought that was an important requirement of the car. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what that certain je ne sais quoi is, but yeah, fair to say I still don't know it, but Nissan Bluebird doesn't have it, which is a shame. But there you go. It's certainly been an enjoyable experience, albeit a fairly costly one. But yeah, given that this is going to be a direct swap for tomorrow's car, we'll see whether it still feels like bad value for money then. We shall see. One disappointing thing about getting rid of the Bluebird is I haven't really had a chance to put these Blockley tyres through their paces. I mean, I've done about 1,300 miles on them, but that doesn't really necessarily tell you an awful lot. Initially, I was quite disappointed with the tyres. It was a wet roundabout up in the Chester region when I went round, and I could just feel it pushing wide under power understeer, and it's not like it's got a lot of power in the first place. It turned out the tyres had been overinflated, so they were about 4 or 5 psi over, which doesn't help. They're a very hard tyre, quite a stiff sidewall. I think the last thing you want is extra pressure in there. But even after doing that, I found it a little prone to locking up under emergency stop situations. Once was an actual emergency stop, and another time was just me testing the brakes. I mean, it must be said the Bluebird does have surprisingly fierce brakes for a 1980s car. I mean, they're on a par with Citroën for their ability to send you through the windscreen if you're not careful with a middle pedal. But even so, it has left me a little unsure of the tyres. I mean, certainly cornering, and I do corner briskly, it's not been an issue. It was only that one time I was on an empty roundabout and I thought, right, let's just see what happens, and it did just slightly push into a very controllable understeer. As soon as I eased off the pedal a bit, it came straight back in line. So it's a shame, because Blockley Tyres is a small independent company. The tyres are made in Indonesia, but they're developed by a company in Gloucestershire. Julian Mazoub, who runs the company, you may have seen him racing at Goodwood Revival. He effectively got into building tyres because he couldn't find anything that was good enough for racing on. So he does a range of tyres that are particularly well suited to the vintage and sort of early classic era sports cars. and he has a lot of fun demonstrating just how good those tyres can be. But he's broadening the range, so he's starting to do 12-inch tyres. 12-inch tyres have become annoyingly difficult to get hold of, as we found with our little Perodua nipper. So he does some 145 12s, which might be fun to try at some point. But he's also doing some of the higher profile tyres from the 70s and 80s. And I mean, you can still get tyres for a Nissan Bluebird fairly easily, but I shouldn't imagine that's going to be the case for long. 14-inch wheels are very, very small by modern standards. Everything seems to be on enormous donk-sized wheels. Whether that's a good thing is for another debate. But yeah, would have been nice to do a bit more testing on those tyres. I'll do what I can on this trip now. Still got about 80-90 miles to go, and the road conditions are damp, so good testing weather. Well, I've just been testing the tyres on a roundabout, and I managed to lose my most original Datsun badge, which was located in the centre console, so perhaps grip levels aren't that bad. I know that's not science, but it's very hard to do science with tyre comparisons anyway, unless you can change them instantly to some other different tyres on exactly the same condition. It's very hard to make a judgment call. So I've now swapped the scenery of Wales for the concrete bliss of Birmingham. Now travelling on roads I would have travelled on in my dad's Nissan Bluebird many years ago. So yeah, a bit of a nostalgia trip. And now things get really exciting as we go into St Chad's Queensway first of all. That was almost very exciting. Oh, we emerged blinking into the light briefly. Before we sink into the main Queensway tunnel. I used to think this was the most amazing thing when I was a child. It is 548 meters long, so you know, over half a kilometre. But I mean, it used to feel like the longest tunnel that ever existed when I was a child. I've since driven through much longer tunnels. I seem to recall one in Norway, which we climbed in a Citroen H van, and I have a feeling that was about 4.8 kilometres, and that was uphill all the way. Feeling all the longer today because we're doing 15 miles an hour. I may have forgotten just how much I hate driving in Birmingham. I say driving, that would imply that we're actually moving, which I suppose we are, but I could walk faster than this. So there we have it, the end of Project Bluebird. But the motoring adventures on Hubnut go on. We've now got a Lexus to play with, and there will be a further review of this car coming soon. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I shall see you again in a future video. Farewell.